Welcome to Acclime Conversation, a thought leadership series where we discuss the key trends shaping the future of business in Vietnam. Today, we have the pleasure of having with us Mr. Sam Conroy, Managing Director of CEA Projects Vietnam, a leading logistic and project management company specializing in complex, large scale, and heavy lift logistics solutions. He also is the president of AusCham Vietnam. Welcome to our thought leadership series.
Thank you, Rizwan. Looking forward to it.
In this video, we explore Vietnam's logistics infrastructure, opportunities for moving upstream in the supply chain, regulatory consideration for free trade zones, and the growing importance of digital transformation and corporate social responsibility in strengthening Vietnam's global competitiveness. Sam, I know your career has taken you from senior leadership roles in Australia to key positions in Singapore, Myanmar, and even the Middle East. With such a rich global background in logistics and leadership, what was it about Vietnam that convinced you to commit your long-term future here?
Thanks, Rizwan. I found Vietnam was a fantastic mix between opportunity and scalability. So the ability to be able to build a business here in this environment, based on my experience specifically, was a high value for us. It's a natural fit. Vietnam's also a dynamic market that suits our sort of businesses that we manage, and so it's a natural fit for us, and has been for the last 8 years, which has been exciting to be able to continue to have an organisation that fits in a specific market like we do.
Okay, interesting. As president of AusCham Vietnam, you are in a unique position to observe and influence the economic relationship between Australia and Vietnam. How is AusCham supporting Australian businesses in Vietnam, and what more can be done to unlock opportunities for collaboration between two economies?
That's a big question. The relationship between Australia and Vietnam is a very long one. We celebrated recently 50 years of relationship between Australia and Vietnam. Australians have had a long-standing relationship here, and it starts with education. A lot of Vietnamese are educated in Australia. We have a large Vietnamese community in Australia as well, and through that, primarily, we've been able to build a very strong relationship. Australian businesses typically are not the largest investors, but we're often multiple large numbers of investors here. And we're very broad. So we're representing 300 businesses in Vietnam, and no dominant specific markets. Obviously, education, tourism and hospitality is a big one, but manufacturing, but also services. So we're representing a lot of broad membership. We get great support from the Australian government. We work hand in hand. I don't think there's any overlap also, which is really excellent. We work closely on many projects together. I was just yesterday travelling in the Mekong Delta with Austrade senior leaders. So that's a common occurrence, and that allows our members a really broad opportunity for. We're in the Mekong Delta with senior leaders from Austrade. Because we've got a broad membership, and we've a broad membership of large businesses, multinationals, the names that you'd expect in Australia of Australian businesses, RMIT, ANZ, and NAB Bank, example. We're also supporting mostly SMEs, a large number of them SMEs. And those SMEs are here trying to, how to do business, trying to leverage our experience. The board, on average, is probably around 8, 9 years experience each. We've got a team that's quite strong and large, both in Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi. So there isn't much that we haven't come across in our time here. So I think the huge value is that we're on the ground, we've had experience, we've got good relationships with the government, Australian government and Vietnamese government, that's how we support them the best we can. In what has been, in my 15 years here, has been a changing environment. It's changed dramatically, and so we've, as a chamber, also trying to adapt as those changes come on us.
So from your perspective, how has the Vietnam's logistics sector here changed in terms of infrastructure, efficiency, and global integration?
Over the 15 years, customers particularly that didn't have experience in Vietnam were coming here to make sure that we could even do it. I remember going to port visits to understand whether they even had the infrastructure to do it. Could you actually move product from your factory to the port or to the airport and such? We did multiple of those sort of visits to explain to customers that this is possible. It actually is possible. We are now, and Vietnam, particularly on the logistics side, has done a fantastic job of infrastructure. When we've now got deep sea ports in the north and the south, we've now got international airports in multiple locations. We've got new airports coming. We've got road infrastructure going into place. So it's always going to be a struggle to keep up because of the scale that was needed. But I think that Vietnam's done a fantastic job of that. So we're not talking about can we do it anymore? We're not talking about capacity anymore. We're now talking about efficiency, which is where we should be, right? Is now we need to be in a position where we're making it the most efficient we can. And that's the conversations that have happened in my 16 years here. And, these big infrastructure projects that are going in place, they're tough to do as standalone. Then you've got to link them to everything else. They're not easy things to do. And sometimes you get them right, sometimes you don't. But on the whole, I'm very impressed with what Vietnam's been able to do, not just in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, but other cities, areas, Canton, Da Nang, areas outside of the traditional industrial areas as well. So it's becoming sort of an integrated solution for the world. Yeah.
Right. What I could see from this one, that we have the right infrastructure in place. We have the integration as well. Now, what the next step would be to bring more efficiency in the process to make the logistics more competitive and more responsive for the manufacturer's need.
Yeah, look, it's going to become all about efficiency, and I don't think that's just logistics. I think that's going to become Vietnam for the next few years, in the fact that it was about can you do it, capacity. Now it's about making it efficient. The moving of manufacturing for labour cost is done. I think you've got to use the current setups you have and make them more efficient, and so logistics falls into that. Logistics costs globally is impacting. It's got to be not about product cost. It's got to be all included, including logistics. And so Vietnam needs to be as efficient as it can, or as efficient as the rest of the world. In many regards, it is. Some people question some of that efficiency, but it is. Their port efficiency is global standard. There's other parts of that are global standard. And so, yeah, it's going to be all about efficiency and effectiveness in the next few years as everything else behind logistics, it also becomes more efficient, I think. Yeah.
Right. So I reckon that you came to Vietnam in 2009, 2010.
Yep.
And it's pretty much the same time when I came to Vietnam.
Yep.
And I think both of us have seen the changes.
Yep.
So from your viewpoint, what are the major changes you have seen in the infrastructure in the last 15, 17 years?
Well, in general terms, I tell people that from the time that I got here to now, everything is better. Like, everything is better. I'm not one of those people, a good old days person. I think everything's improved. I think the opportunities for young people here has got much greater. I think the opportunities for families here has got much better. I think, just in general terms, everything is improving and continuing to improve. We make step backwards every now and then, and there's false steps every now and then as well, but generally everything's improved. On the infrastructure side, specifically around logistics, like I said before, we've got deep sea ports in both north and south. We're probably going to end up with 2 in the south, which is an amazing achievement. The new airports in Hanoi was a game changer. It was that it meant that we could be a technology manufacturer for the world, and off the back of that, not off the back of that, combined together with those businesses, that's what we are, that technology hub. And that will continue. The continuation of that, we'll see some significant infrastructures coming through. The merging of provinces, particularly in Ho Chi Minh, is really interesting in the fact that now that encompasses Bahria. So all of that infrastructure all is managed by the one province, which is really important. You don't want to be making decisions for your single province. You want to be making for the country, and that's what will happen with all of the port and airport all falling under one jurisdiction, which will be super important for everybody. That's exciting. That's exciting for sure. And there's still room for growth, which is important. In certain areas, you can see that we're at close capacity. On the large infrastructure stuff, there's still plenty of room, which is exciting, yeah, for sure.
Right. So, talking about technology, looking ahead, what role do you see digital transformation like smart ports or blockchain in customs playing in Vietnam's logistic competitiveness over the next 5 to 10 years? Are there any technologies you are already using or considering?
Well, it's on the tip of everyone's tongue is AI. I heard something. I've heard a couple of times now. I'm trying to keep up as much as I can, even though we run a small business. I'm trying to keep up as much as we can. I'm hearing that what we have in AI today is a toy in comparison to what we'll have next year. So your question is about 5 to 10 years. I have no idea, honestly. My sense is that we're going to see a drastic change in the next 1 to 2 years. It's exciting for my industry. We do a lot of boring, repetitive, dumb stuff. And we've been doing that with smart people, and that is an absolute waste. So I'm not frightened about reductions in headcount in people, particularly in our industry. I think we can take out a lot of the poor stuff that we do, the boring stuff that we do, and replace that work with really intelligent stuff. That's exciting because for Vietnam, in the fact that education continues to improve, skills continue to improve, everything is improving. So that means that we're in sort of lockstep. I'm not also concerned about automation, particularly in our industry. I think vessels are going to be automated. It seems crazy not to already, to be honest. Trucking won't be automated in Vietnam for the next 10 years. I know that. But the rest of it can really do with some really automation. I heard National Australia Bank say they don't have any vision of reducing headcount. They're going to clear what they think is 10 to 15 years of backlog of things that they've wanted to do through AI. So they'll probably have the same or more people doing much, much more like what they want to do. So I think our industry is the same. I think logistics is going to be the same. We are going to be able to do what we've wanted to do much easier, faster, and have smart people doing smart things.
Interesting points. Everyone is talking about the free trade zones in Vietnam. So, drawing on lessons from successful free trade zones in other countries, how can Vietnam design a free trade zone in Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu that is globally competitive? From your perspective, what specific opportunities could such a zone unlock for Vietnam's logistics sector?
All the great trading countries in the world have them, and we have been. We in Vietnam need to be on at least level playing field with those countries. We are in, like I was sharing before, we're in a global race, right? We're competing against every other country in the world, and free economic zones, which have already been approved, particularly the one in Da Nang, which is really exciting. It's exciting for multiple reasons. It will also give access to Laos and Cambodia and such. So those free economic zones are really important for efficiency, cost saving, capacity in the market. Everyone that's coming to Vietnam now that we see is coming here for capacity. They're not coming here for labour. They're not coming here for cost. They're coming here for meet global capacity for their markets, or the global capacity, or capacity for their markets. And free economic zone will give that to them in many regards. It's just the right way to go. And timing is good for that to happen about now, as we transition from what Vietnam was, which was we're transitioning very quickly through the manufacturing life cycle, right? And I can see in the next few years that some of the stuff that we were doing 10 years ago we won't be doing anymore. I think furniture is a really tough one. Will be in the next few years. Some of this simple manufacturing, some of this commodity stuff will probably fall out of the market for various reasons. Yeah, so that free economic zone, that opportunity to become a global player here is really important for us.
If we talk about supply chain, global trade dynamics and shifting tariff regimes are reshaping how countries structure their supply chains, from sourcing decision to market access strategies. How are these tariff changes currently influencing the way companies plan, invest, and manage their supply chains in Vietnam? And how can Vietnam position itself to remain an attractive and resilient node in this evolving landscape?
What a big one. Really, it's been very interesting in the last few months to watch how organisations and countries have reacted. I know on the announcement day for the tariffs, I know some US businesses that just closed up on the Wednesday and went, I'm going to come back on this on Monday and try and work out where we're at. What really excited me, I also saw, was a lot of businesses, not just Australian businesses, but a lot of businesses very quickly were able to pivot. They made decisions quickly and made decisions based on the best information they had on hand or a fairly good estimate of what was going to come ahead. The old adage, having all your eggs in one basket was really obvious. The US market is massive and it's super attractive. But if your entire business is reliant on one market, that is dangerous. And Australia had learnt its lesson with that in relation to China. We had a lot of our eggs in that one basket, and I don't think Australia would let themselves do that again. And I've seen Australian businesses pivot very quickly. I've seen Australian businesses pull out of the US market entirely, almost instantly. I've seen Australian businesses adapt to the US market very quickly, particularly because of that. But overall, there's certain markets, there's certain industries that I know are really hurting because of this. But I don't get a doomsday at all about what's happened. I've seen more opportunities come from the tariffs than the opposite. Because I think there's an opportunity for us all to work together a bit better, explore opportunities that we probably should have explored anyway. That's the general sense that I'm getting. Australian economy is also doing well, and so we've got some issues around housing and such, but that's capacity again. So Australian businesses are up here trying to work out how to build capacity and such, and so there's an opportunity for us to leverage what's happening with the US. We're a good trading partner. Australia's a good trading partner. And I think a lot of businesses will see Australia as that. And the good thing is we're also consistent. Our Prime Minister's reaction to the tariffs was very measured. And I think most countries and businesses would see that reaction and go, there's a decent group at the wheel. What side of politics, it doesn't matter, I don't think. I think we probably would have had a very similar response just depending on what side you're on. And so Australia's seen as a safe, trading partner. Not easy. It's not easy to Australia for many reasons, but it is a consistent, safe partner.
Perhaps you might have seen that Vietnamese businesses are moving from US as a major trading partner to other regions as well. Do you have any insights in that?
I've not specifically Vietnam businesses pulling out of the US market. There's a big connection between Vietnam and US that I don't think is easy to untangle in many regards. But I'm encouraged by the Go Global brands from Vietnam. Like FPT is just a fantastic example of global outreach. They've got they've got an Australian presence, so I know them relatively well. But there's other big brands, Vietnamese brands, that are going global. Vin is obviously trying to also go global in a market that's very difficult, right? Cars are extremely difficult to go global with. But they're certainly not giving up and just recently gone into Indonesia, for example, and we've had some presence in Australia as well. So I'm encouraged by these large Vietnamese businesses that are going global. I think the banks are also probably going to be going global as well, which is also exciting. So yeah, that's good for us. It's good for everyone to have those organisations going offshore. Again, making sure that they're diverse because things do change, and you wouldn't want to be reliant on a single market now, more so than probably anyone in the past. I think we're going to have changes in all markets probably in the next couple of years. Like the US market is what it is, but obviously Europe's not easy at the moment either. And so for various reasons, not having Middle East, of course. So yeah, having that diversified global approach, is good to see.
That's interesting viewpoint. So, looking ahead, what role can Vietnam play in the next decade as global supply chains become more digital, regionalized, and sustainability driven?
Like I said before, I think the chase for cheap labour's gone. So it's going to be about becoming more effective and more efficient in each of the markets. And the recent changes made by the Vietnamese government are extremely positive. We're in transition. It's going to take some bedding down, but the outcome will be a much more efficient, effective, and easier to deal with than what's happened in the past. I think Vietnam's going to be right at the forefront in relation to technology. Vietnam in the past has technology jumped in many regards. I think there's some information around that Vietnam's very much at the forefront of a lot of that. And we've got population and government support and various factors that are going to mean that Vietnam will continue to be that. We've got to become efficient and effective, which is the really main thing. It's got to become easier to do business here, not more difficult. And I think it has done, but it's always can be a bit bumpy, and this time is bumpy for sure, right? But everyone knew it was coming. Everyone knows why it's there. So that's the main thing, is that in 6 to 12 months, we're more effective, we're more efficient, and that it attracts businesses to Vietnam. Vietnam doesn't want to get itself into a position where it's seen as just too hard. Particularly, I've noticed in Australian businesses, their appetite for risk is much, much lower than they were in the past. Australian businesses that offshored work to China 15, 20 years ago wouldn't do that like that anymore. They just don't have that appetite for risk. So it's got to be a much lower risk than probably in the past, which, fair or not fair, that's what it is. And also, certain industries just don't have that appetite for risk, that particularly Australian businesses. So I think we've had Australian banks here in the past as retail banks. I think that business case would now be very difficult. We want to get back to the position where Australian banks, Australian universities like RMIT, Australian industry go, Vietnam is the best option, by far the best option, and drive into that from there, like we have been in the past. And we are still in many regards. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sam. As we have heard today, Vietnam's logistics sector is undergoing a remarkable transformation driven by infrastructure investment, opportunities from free trade zones, digital innovation, and a stronger global partnership. Thanks once again, Sam, for joining us in this conversation, and we look forward to seeing how Vietnam continues to grow as a dynamic hub for trade, investment, and collaboration.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it.